Welcome to another episode of Bagels E-Locks. I'm your host, Daniel Sands, a.k.a. the Parlay Lawyer. I'm here with David Turetsky, a.k.a. Harambe Covers.
Let's go.
We're here round two of NBA playoffs, round two of NHL playoffs. I also went to F1 this weekend. I'm sporting the McLaren hat because I bet on Lando Norris, top three. I'm upset I did bet on him to win his first race. That would have been quite the payout. I think it was like plus 2,800, something like that.
Yeah, somewhere in the twos. I was looking for someone to bet in that range. Yeah, I should have
told you.
It's okay.
I was there at the race, had that feeling. I was also just wearing this McLaren hat. I bought it because it was cool. Cool. That's awesome that Lando won his first race. Verstappen, if anyone watches F1 that listens to this, as you know, he's like the Michael Jordan right now of racing. He just can't lose every single time. It seemed like he was going to win. Lando came back. Some interesting stuff with the safety car, but it was quite the event. I know it's getting a lot of interesting viral content because of the concession prices.
Yeah, I got to ask you. So I've been looking on social media and I see all these concession prices. And the first thing I asked when I saw you today was, how was your $180 nachos?
Yeah, well, I wasn't in the beach club. I was.
So that was only beach club.
That was just beach club, okay. Is my understanding. The concession prices that I saw, they weren't that insane.
So a fruit refresher, aka a fruit cup, for $190, but with pink pineapple.
Well, it's pink pineapple. I've never seen a pink pineapple.
No, I haven't either, and that's probably why, because I'm not going to spend $190 on fruit.
Yeah, like Miss Lippy. I've never seen a blue duck.
Or an empanada duo, which you can go to Miami, where the F1 was, and go to Little Havana and get an empanada for $1. Or you can get two empanada duo for $170.
Yeah, I mean, you could have actually gone to an empanada stand at the place. But if you're trapped in the beach club, you beach club, you get to see Ed Sheeran. He was performing.
Oh, he did perform?
He did perform.
Okay.
And then John Summit. That was pretty.
Yeah, okay.
It looked pretty lit, but it was crazy expensive if you wanted to be in that section.
For $190, you can share a fruit cup with Ed Sheeran. Now, there's value.
Well, I don't know if you get to share it with him. If you wanted to share...
I could, toast a pink pineapple towards him, and he'll be like, that guy.
Yeah, if you wanted him to serenade your pink pineapple, it's an extra $300. Right.
Yeah, it's a hell of a flex if, $190 pink pineapple.
Yeah, but anyway, F1, it was a good time. Man, we've been talking about NBA playoffs. We've been talking about NHL playoffs. We've been betting on NHL playoffs and did well. So let's just start with the NBA.
And first and foremost, congratulations.
Thank you. I'm sorry about your Joel Embiid led Sixers.
No, it's okay, and I expected it.
Yeah,
sorry. It was a lot closer than we all expected. I mean, even the point, I think it was a point difference in the total.
Differential.
Really cool. One. Great series. New York, Philly always has a rivalry, so it was really nice to I didn't even think the Sixers would keep it that close, so wow. That was cool. I mean,
So you wanted Charles Barkley and Shaq, who all they just looked like, where their money went on their bets, because they were sad as hell when they saw that series come to an end. But we just had, so it's Tuesday, last night, the Knicks played the Pacers. So we'll start with this series, round two, game one. And the Knicks, they're going to give me a heart attack, losing so many years off my life, because there is no game that's not close. They looked terrible all game, very flat. Pacers seem to be running with a lot of pace. On the betting side, I think that what we're seeing is that until they start readjusting it, the over is going to be a really nice bet, because the Pacers play really fast. Their defense is pretty bad. And the Knicks seem to have upped their pace to try to compete there at the end.
Right. And what's interesting for me is I saw that over under yesterday, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Something didn't seem right. And I don't dive into the NBA as deep as you do. I'm more the NHL end and you're more the NBA end. But I was reading, and the Pacers, no pun intended, do keep that pace, and they do push the ball.
Yeah.
So seeing it at 217, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to stay away. Now watching it a little bit, I'm like, okay, that makes more sense. Well, pretty easy. Especially watching the Knicks against the Sixers, it was such a slower paced game, more like, defense, things of that nature. And I don't know. I mean, look, as a Knicks fan for you, I would be excited that they looked so flat and they still won.
Right.
Right. And they still almost covered.
Yeah. No, I know. At the end of the game. So I actually, and I bought it down, but I had Knicks minus 4.5. They won by 4.
I had 5. Yeah.
And at the end of the game, they missed fouling the Knicks. They passed the ball off. OG goes down, and he had just, sometimes the player has that wide open dunk at the end of the game, and they just take it. I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna cover back door.
And he didn't.
Didn't happen. I was still very happy. And you know what? I'm gonna humble myself a little bit as a Knicks fan and say what is the truth. The Knicks got very lucky with the refs. They finally...
Wow.
Yeah.
You're admitting.
Well, so before it wasn't the refs, it was the Sixers were getting all the calls. And I know, I don't know if you saw on Twitter, Joel Embiid tweeted LOL because of the calls. I mean, shut the fuck up, Joel Embiid. You literally just troll for fucking fouls the entire time. Excuse my friend.
No, I love it.
Joel Embiid really upsets me. And one of the most famous plays in that series even was Joel Embiid passing up a wide open 3 to go get a foul, and then he commits an offensive foul. But the Knicks got very lucky. That was not a kickball. I don't know what the refs were looking at. But, it came to our side. We pulled it out at the end. What's really fun about this team is they're winning the game. If it comes down close to the fourth quarter, they are they're the team that makes the defensive stop, that doesn't hopefully get a turnover. But like you said, I'm excited because they came out flat. It reminds me of, you remember in the beginning of the Sixers series, first 2 games, Jalen Brunson, they won the games, but he didn't play well.
Not at all.
And then he's gone on a historic tear. In fact, I believe he is the first player in NBA history to have 4 straight games of at least 40 points and at least 5 assists. First player in history.
Wow.
So it's pretty exciting. I like the Knicks in this series. I do expect the Pacers to get a game or 2. I think it goes 6 games or hopefully not 7. But I like the Knicks to get back to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time since 1999, when I was just a little Nino.
You'll taste it.
And I will taste it again. And I said this in the beginning of the year. I never expected this team to be better than the Celtics or the Nuggets, although we'll talk about that in a second.
We'll talk about coming out flat, yeah.
But, I always said, I'm like, if we can make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, I would view this as huge win, and then we're just one major player away, or who knows, if Julius Randle was here, we might be the team to beat. Who knows? I'm excited. I like, on betting wise, I like the Knicks to take the next game. I wonder where the spread's going to be at. Is it out yet?
It is 5.5.
Wow. So they gave them.
Well, it was 5.5 when it closed. I got it at 5. It closed at 5.5.
Okay.
So they left it. They left it. But they upped the over under. It's 220.5.
Yeah.
From 217.
So there you go. So they see it too. These teams are playing with higher pace. But you know what? I like the Knicks to maybe come out with some good adjustments. Thibodeau, knows how to make the adjustments. I like them probably to cover that spread. I might buy it down a couple points, but that's what I like. Well, let's move on to the other game that was in the association last night, and that was the Nuggets Timberwolves. And holy shit!
Yeah, you're talking.
Look at our young legend blossoming before everyone's eyes, Anthony Edwards, and the Timberwolves defense. Whoa!
Yeah, you're talking about coming out slow, coming out flat. I know I had the Nuggets to the finals. I don't think the Nuggets get out of this series against Minnesota. I know you told me that you sprinkled a little on Denver to come back.
Why not? Why not?
Why
not? I might have thrown $100 on down the drain, but I also might win $1,000.
No, right. It was definitely, it's a good sprinkle for sure.
Yeah.
But the Nuggets just looked horrendous. And I think Jamal Murray really is hurting.
Yeah.
I know he is hurt, but
you know what can fix him up?
Yeah, I do know.
Yeah.
And if you watched his Instagram story a couple years back, you know too. So
I think that he needs it. Call in
whoever it was.
Call in the nurse.
The nurse, paging nurse, Jamal Murray. But in all seriousness, the Nuggets look like crap, or the Timberwolves just look absolutely amazing. Watching Brunson and watching Anthony Edwards, I would love to see those two just go at it in the finals. That would just be so exciting to me. The way that they're both playing is unbelievable. The Timberwolves, they're up 2-0. They're going back home. I mean, personally, I think they win at least one at home, at least. And they're going back to Denver 3-1.
It's going to be difficult. That Denver crowd was out of it very early.
That is the Denver crowd. Look, I used to live out there. I had season tickets to the Nuggets. Flashback not many years ago when the Nuggets were still good, still relevant. I was able to sit courtside last minute to a game for about $350 in a round 2 game against the Trailblazers. I remember going to that. And it was like a game 6 too. It wasn't like game 1.
Right.
So it's a different market. And because of that market, maybe that's why, not to go back too far, but why the Knicks are getting these calls. Like the association sees what's going on. Like if the Knicks became more relevant again.
They're as relevant as you can be right now.
Well, because they're New York.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, like what have they done? Avenue? What have they done in the playoffs in the past? Not much, right? No. They became that like front team, and then they can get a huge name with all your committee. It's a dream come true.
Yeah. So
because the Lakers ain't it anymore.
Yeah. No. And speaking of like Knicks and excitement again, because anytime I can bring it up, your cousin Mike actually sent me a video last night on 7th Avenue. When everyone's going crazy. I love those side talk videos where they're just like, Joel, come get these hands.
Yeah.
So good. But yeah, the Nuggets, it's pretty shocking that they're just getting destroyed like this. And they don't even look like they can't dribble. They can't move. And this was without Rudy Gobert last night.
Right.
So they seem to have figured out the Nuggets. They're, like you said, the Nuggets with Jamal Murray not fully healthy, it feels like they're missing some pieces that they had last year that really took them over the top, like Bruce Brown. I think that was like a huge loss. I don't think anyone considered him, that's the reason they won. But having those guys that can just kind of like break down the team off the dribble, it opened everything up for Jokic and the 3-point shooters, and then even Bron being able to come in. So I think they're in some trouble. I hope they win. I hope Jokic, you're looking at a guy who, when it's all said and done, I truly believe he's going to be known as like a top 5 player that ever played the game. But they seem to have figured him out. And how exciting, this new breed of NBA now. It's Timberwolves.
Yep.
Edwards. We saw even with Paolo Banchero, this guy looks like he might be a future stud. Jalen Brunson coming in. We talked about in the beginning of the playoffs without like Curry and LeBron like leading the way. Where are we?
Yeah.
And I like what we are because we got Anthony Edwards.
Because you have one of them.
I have one of them right now. Anthony Edwards looks like he could actually be Michael Jordan's real son.
I mean, have you seen the split photos? It's scary.
I believe in this tinfoil hat theory. I usually don't believe in these things, but it's just too uncanny. And it's exciting. This guy really seems like he wants to be the best player.
Now, many years back, I bought you a gift. It was a Kristaps Porzingis.
Oh, I know. I saw
signed
Yeah.
Nixon. Now,
still hung up in my house.
Wait, don't touch it.
Yeah.
Maybe the power of Kristaps is coming back to bless the Knicks with that injury.
Yeah.
Can the Celtics even get out of Cleveland?
Yes.
Against but
yes, they can.
All right. But will they beat with Kristaps not there?
Yeah. Well,
the Knicks have a shot.
Well, what'll be interesting about this Cavs series is obviously the size that the Cavs have down low. And then Donovan Mitchell, as we saw, like he can put the team on his back and score 50 points. I don't think they have a shot against the Celtics. Do I think they could take a game? Sure. I mean, the Heat without Butler did. And fuck Jimmy Butler. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean,
like-
Pat Riley.
I know.
Checked him.
Pat Riley checked him hard. I like Jimmy Butler, so I'm sorry, Jimmy, if you hear that.
Come to Winnable House.
Yeah, no. I like Jimmy Butler, but I was just joking because he's like out in Cancun or St. Bart's, wherever he is, and he's like talking shit. Like Boston would be home, the Knicks would be home. Love his confidence. I think he might go to your Sixers next year.
Come back, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, but Kristaps, that is a big loss, but I think he probably is going to be back in time.
Who knows? Like, maybe you want these series to be quick.
Yeah.
Knicks finish quick, and then they can kind of just start.
Into it. I don't know that the Knicks will finish it quick. I feel like TJ McConnell is just such a problem, which is crazy to say. But yeah, and then tonight we have some more games.
Yeah, so it's Celtics, Cavs,
Cavs,
and Thunder, Mavs.
Right. So here are the bets I took.
Okay.
So the spread in the Celtics Cavs scares me both ways. It's not high enough, like where it was in
12 and a half. It's not like 14.
It's not 14 where I'm saying, okay, you know what? I'm going to take the Cavs. I think they could keep it within 14.
Uh-huh.
But it's also not high enough. Like, it's also high enough where I'm nervous about taking the Celtics.
Cavs lose by 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know what I really like, though?
The over-under.
No.
Okay.
I'm going to go even next level betting. I like the first quarters and first halves of both of these games.
Okay.
I think the Celtics and the Thunder are both far superior teams to their opponents in these rounds. I think at home they're going to come out very strong. Mm-hmm. I think that they'll go to big leads. I'm worried about the ends of the games getting closer.
Well, and the bench players are coming in.
Yeah. No, and even just like teams making one final push and the team that's ahead, like kind of taking their foot off the gas because they have the game.
They're just clock managing. They're not really trying to score. Yeah.
So, and we see this a lot in the playoffs. So I'm really targeting these first halves. Those are where my bets are tonight. It's in the first quarters and first halves of both games for the home team, Celtics, spread, and...
Love the theory. I had that same theory last night with the Nuggets, and...
Oh,
that hurt.
I kind of did too. But no one could have seen what happened with the Nuggets. I mean, it was a masterclass of defense last night. But I was on such a high after the Knicks won that I was happy. But speaking of not being high on something, I was quite sad, though, seeing our Florida Panthers get fucking fucked up, destroyed by the Bruins, who have really had our number all year.
Yeah, and I mean, in hockey, I felt that was going to be a problem. That rest is too long. There's rhythm, there's patterns that these guys get used to. And in the NHL, they play every other night. When you have a week off, it will affect you. I don't care what you say or the rest is good. Yes, the rest is good. The rest will be good if this series can go to 6 or 7. Mm-hmm. Then that rest will show because the Panthers will be back in their groove. Last night was just the Bruins just put on a clinic. Bob played well, except they got him. I want to say almost 3 of the goals were the same exact style where he hugged the post. Goalies play big, but you need to play bigger. He kind of like hugged the post and shrugged and left the whole top corner over his shoulder. I saw 2 for sure that went in the same style. The Panthers just looked a little not in rhythm. They looked a little sloppy. They came out hot. And then Boston was just like, all right, enough's enough. The coach for Boston even made a hell of a timeout call, which was rare when they were up 3 goals at the end of the third period. The Panthers came out in the third firing. I know it was like the end of the Knicks, so you probably were just like not even looking, but the Panthers looked amazing.
Yeah.
The coach calls a timeout and yells at all of them and just like, wake up. And then after that, it was over. Like, which was interesting because normally timeouts are like at the end of the game when you're down 2 goals. Do we take?
It's not like basketball where they're like, let's stop or run.
And that's what they did.
Really happen.
And that's exactly what
maybe it should.
And it did. And the Panthers. First of all, Ekblad more like Ekbad. That man looks like shit. And Maurice loves him. Coach Maurice loves him. and he needs to do something. Either sit him or put him on a different line.
I mean, you're not going to sit him.
We did so well without him when he was hurt, and then he comes back, and he just like slow. He reminds me kind of like Kucherov, where I was talking about with, who's an all-star, great points, everything, great
Tampa.
On Tampa. Yeah, he just was like slow and like didn't look like he cared, and like Ekblad kind of just had this like demeanor of just like, well, So I don't know. We haven't beat Boston yet this year.
Yeah, and is it going to happen on Wednesday?
Well, we're there. We're going.
We're going.
And I'm going to get to wear a jersey. We're not filming, but I'm excited because I get to wear a jersey like Dan and go. And we'll be there. We'll put some live stuff on our socials. But, I'm excited. I think we got it Wednesday. I think the Panthers will come out victorious in this series.
Okay.
I do believe we're the better team.
Yeah.
Just flat out. And the NHL is exciting. We have a couple other series. Another great series, Avs, Stars. That's a stunner. But I know you're from New York. The Rangers look unbeatable right now. So
no, they look great. I was really, I was hopeful about the Panthers, but it's just one game. And we looked great in the Tampa series.
We did.
So let's keep our fingers crossed. They wake up. This shook them a little bit that they're, that they need to wake up. It did work after they lost that one game against Tampa. It came out amazing the next game.
I'm just a little worried with the Tampa thing. Like we put Tampa on a pedestal down here in South Florida. Like that's was that our championship? I hope not. Right? Was that like? I just hope like that mentality isn't.
Yeah. No. I'm excited for Wednesday. We will be there. We'll be shooting some stuff. But I'm really excited for what's next right now because we're going to be interviewing Joe Wiz.
Okay.
He is a nationally syndicated radio host of a sports betting show called Fine Line that's on 98.7 New York, back from my hometown. and I have been listening to him for years. So we're going to talk about his story, maybe talk a little bit about betting. He's also an excellent handicapper. Maybe extract some bets.
There we go.
So let's get on with that interview.
Awesome.
Okay, so I want to welcome to the podcast right now, very exciting guest, Joe Wiz. He's the only sports handicapper in the nation with his own nationally syndicated sports show on ESPN 98.7 New York, which makes me very excited because of being from New York. That's the ESPN radio that I always listen to. It's called The Fine Line. Welcome to the pod, Joe.
Hey, thanks for having me on, and I'm looking forward to working with the team, and hopefully we can make some money for everyone out there listening in.
Absolutely. That's the goal. Money for everyone betting. That always makes betting a lot more fun. So, Joe, I know you've been in the industry for a long time. You don't get a nationally syndicated radio show without that. So why don't you just walk us through? How did you even get into the sports betting space? When did you get in? And give us a little bit of a background there on that journey.
Hey, Dan, thanks. It's been a long time, and I actually started out backwards. I started out in the bookmaking industry. I worked for the computer group many years ago, and when I was what they call a beard, and a beard was like an agent. So when we worked for the computer group, which is the largest betting syndicate in the world, Billy Walters at the time was in charge, and they had agents all over the country. And then pretty much, it was almost like when you watch that movie, Born Identity, when they put the hit on somebody, everybody jumps on their bike and motor. Here, in the old days, there was no texting and somebody's cell phones didn't even exist. That's how far back it goes. We pretty much just got a call at 9 or 10 in the morning for a specific game, and boom, we had an hour to move the game. And before you knew it, after all the phone calls and all the agents put the bets in, the line was moving 3-4 points. I used to have books that put me on hold for 3 or 4 minutes, sometimes 15 minutes, and they would like limit me on what I can bet on the games because they knew that as soon as I made the bet, the line would move.
The line's going to move, yeah. And so that's interesting because when you started in the industry, none of this technology like Winnable and what we've tried to create even existed. How has the tech really changed and the online betting changed sort of how you go about making bets and kind of, tackling those lines?
Well, when I started out, when you were a bookmaker, it was a felony in New York if you got caught booking. So we always were hiding out and we were always shifting places. But the technology has changed tremendously. But just as much as we've seen the things happening with the NBA and the NFL, just in general, the way the game is being played. Remember the totals in the NBA used to be 180, 190.
Yeah.
Now during the regular season, you're seeing totals at 230. Those are unheard of. 230 was a total you would see during an All-Star game, not during a regular season. Now, granted, during the playoffs, they've gone down a little bit. Obviously, the Cleveland-Orlando game, Game 7 on Sunday, I was surprised. That was the lowest total I've seen in a long time. It did remind me of the old days. But yeah, the technology has changed. A lot of new people out there. But sports betting now has become obviously more socially acceptable. People out there, and but I always tell people just to be careful, because a lot of the people out there are making too many wagers there, and they can't make money that way if they have 6, 7 bets in one day.
Yeah, so I know that's something that you also specialize in, which is, cash management and bet management. So without giving up too much of the secret sauce, sort of what are like the basics and baselines of making sure that you're responsible with your betting and ultimately making money?
Yeah, it's very simple. I don't mind sharing the ideas. It's called money management. We do it in daily life, right? When we go to the supermarket, when we go shopping for a car, or we even go shopping around for gasoline. Some gasoline places are $3.50 a gallon, other places are $5 a gallon. And the same thing comes with money management. I tell people, forget about the winning percentage. Yeah, that sounds great that you hit 70% or 80%, but the realistic thing is anyone that tells you hitting 80% is lying to you, okay? Any good handicapper that's out there that can hit 60% on a consistent basis is doing a tremendous job. And money management is more important, because you could hit 50% then and still make money. I can give you 2 games, say you bet them for 100 each, and say if those 2 games lost without the juice, say you lost 200, and say you bet 2 games for a nickel each, and you won those 2 games, you picked up a dime. So you take the 2 from the 1,000, you made an $800 profit, and you're at 50%. So money management to me is more important than any other element when it comes to, being successful in the long run, because there are certain values I put on games. Not every game has the same strength. And sometimes if somebody's playing small and they want to make big money, I'll say, hey, let's build up the bankroll. If we get to a certain level and we can get to a certain level, then we can make a hit on one big game. But the reality of it is, it's all about being smart and not betting over your head, and using the basic fundamentals of money management that we use in life in general.
Yeah, so it's really understanding how many units you're going to be putting on a certain game, and if this is a game that really mispriced line or whatever, there's some sort of strength you've recognized, and that's where you kind of like in poker, right? When you have a good hand, that's when you're putting your money in.
100%. The money management, and then people get involved with the parlays and the teasers and the prop bets and the live bets. I generally stay away from that stuff. I'm kind of old-fashioned. I'm disciplined. I tell clients when they call me, hey, says, you're not going to like me. I'm like a personal trainer. You're not going to McDonald's. You're not having a cheeseburger. You're allowed 1 beer, and that's it. So people want to go out there and say, oh, well, I want to bet this live bet. What do you think it is? What do you think of that? I'm like, take a step back. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. You got to pace yourself, okay? And you got to set realistic goals for yourself, where you're not just betting every day without having a goal to shoot for. So whenever someone calls me up and says, hey, how much do I want to make? I'm like, well, what's your budget? How much do you want to make? But let's shoot for that goal. And once we reach that goal, then we start back and we reset the clock, and not just keep running and running and running. Because eventually, if you don't have a game plan to where you want to get to, you're just going to be going endlessly.
Hey, Joe, this is David here. Do you think the social media posts that you see, those pipe dreams of those parlays, those $100,000 hits for $5 wagers, they're just pipe dreams selling to clients to get them on board in sports betting, and really you just throw it away, right?
Yeah, well, like I said, a lot of the times you see a lot of the social media, just like anything in social media, it's all blowing up. Half the story you see out there, the other story is whether it's believable. But I always tell people, if you want to bet a parlay, that should never be your primary bet. There are people out there that have a very limited budget, and I always tell people, whether you bet 100 a game or whether you bet 10 dimes a game, no play is too big and no play is too small. So if somebody that's out there wants to make any money and they only have a very little bit about, they can take a shot and do one of those 10-team parlays, but the odds of you winning are very, very slim. I've seen people hit them, but in the long run, they wind up losing.
Yeah. So, but Joe, you're not my understanding is you're not always betting small. In fact, at one point you, or might be currently as well, you had the largest legal bet in the state of New Jersey. Why don't you tell us about that bet? What was it? And, we do like to hear about these big bets too.
Yeah, they are realistic, and the big bet should always be individual, but straight bets have your best chance of winning, Dan. The more games you bet, the less likely you are to win. So I always tell people, whether you use me or whether you call someone else up before you even make the bet, there's always a 50-50 chance of winning. With my insight, my intuition, your odds go up maybe 10 or 15% more. But my big bet was down at the sports book at Monmouth Racetrack. I'm an avid horse racing fan. I just got nosed out at the Kentucky.
We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Kentucky Derby in a second. But tell us about that.
The big bet was at Monmouth. They actually have a Monmouth Racetrack, and they had the sports book there. And I knew there was going to be a lot of people there, and I made a $10 bet, and it was ABC was there, NBC did all the interviews. It's on my website, and then basically we made a bet. I remember the bet, it was the San Francisco Giants and playing the Marlins. This was a couple of years ago when sports betting just became legal. And I was ready to do my interview. The Giants were up in the ninth inning. All of a sudden, they gave up a tying run. It went into extra innings. So I had to sit there and wait another 4 innings. I think it was decided in the 14th inning. But the Giants, the visiting team, actually beat the Marlins, and we went on to win. But that was the biggest legal bet opening day. Now with all sports books, there's people out there betting big money, Dan. Yeah, as I mentioned, there's people betting 100 a game, but there's guys out there moving big money. There's people moving 6 digits and even more. And again, I always use the analogy. Some people drive Kias, some people drive BMWs, some people drive Lamborghinis. We're all going to get to the same destination. It's just a matter of how fast we get there, right?
Right, absolutely. And so getting back to the horses. So I was texting with Joe before the Kentucky Derby, and I love watching the Kentucky Derby every year. In fact, I actually went one year, and that was a lot of fun. But I don't know what the hell I'm doing with the Kentucky Derby, and that goes with a lot of sports. When you want to bet, you're going to watch the game. It's an event. It's always more fun to bet, and that's why the information, getting it from people like Joe, other cappers on Winnable, always makes it more fun. You have an educated guess or educated play. Joe texted me a try box, and it was close, Joe. We were close.
Yes, and horse racing is very difficult. It's one of the more difficult sports. I don't use it on a regular basis with my clients. I tell people horse racing is more for entertainment. But Kentucky Derby, the Triple Crown, the Preakness, the Belmont Stakes this year, which will be at Saratoga, and I mentioned to you, the Derby. I looked at the chart, I looked at the program, and I saw there was a lot of speed in the race. So I threw speed out right away, because I knew the 12-horse Track Phantom was going to set the pace, and he did. He just about pushed Mastic Dan over the rail, if you see the replay of the race. So I knew there was one stone closer who I had in the Bluegrass Stakes in Kentucky a couple weeks ago. That was the prep race, and he's a stone cold closer. And sure enough, Sierra Leone was flying late and just didn't get there in time. But it was a very thrilling race, one of the most exciting, between him and the 12 and the 11 horse. It was the most exciting Kentucky Derby we've seen in a long time.
It was a nostril.
It
was
Yes, and that's what horse racing with Mystic Dan. Not many people had Mystic Dan on their choices, but when I saw the speed, even the 17 horse, I had him on my try box, but I didn't expect him to be there at the end. I figured that the Sierra Leone was going to fly by him, but Fierceness says there were just such fast fractions that these horses never ran 1.25 miles, and boom, they ran that fast, and they never even showed up at the end.
Yeah, it was quite a race. I was actually at the F1 race during it, watching other kinds of ponies, I guess, much more horsepower.
Yeah, well, the F1 is a lot of money there.
Yeah, and I'm wearing a McLaren hat because I actually bet Lando Norris to finish in the top 3. I wish I took him to win. That would have been some payout, but it was an exciting event. So, Joe, we talk about it on this pod. We talked about it before you came on. We're really watching the NBA and NHL really closely. I'd imagine you're betting on the NBA. You're in New York, and there's the Knicks. Because this isn't going to come out tomorrow, but we like to place a bet. Have you looked at or thought about any futures bets in terms of the series winners going on right now with the Knicks and the Pacers? any other one that you're specifically looking at that you think is a sure thing, or someplace you want to put your money?
Yeah, the NBA playoffs are interesting. What we've seen with the Minnesota Timberwolves so far, I mean, they took care of Phoenix. They made Phoenix Suns look pedestrian, and now you have the Minnesota Timberwolves. But you know, with this Pacers-Knicks series, I think the Knicks are going to win it. But I expected this to go 7. A lot of people are just thought the Knicks would just ride by the Pacers, but I felt the Pacers were better than the Sixers were, and the Knicks also could win on the road. They won twice in Philadelphia. But what we saw with the Knicks and Pacers, you know, if it's going to be a high-scoring affair like it was in Game 1, anything is possible. But you know, I think that the Knicks could actually give the Boston Celtics a run for the money. I'm expecting Boston to get right by Cleveland. Cleveland might win one game there. I'm playing totals in those games. Cleveland games generally go under, but I think the Knicks and Celtics could be interesting here. And if things fall the way they are, Porzingis isn't 100% healthy. You know, there's a reason they say there's a reason why they got to play the games, because injuries are part of it, the attrition, how long they play, and all that stuff. So one injury on the Celtics, and the way the Knicks are playing, it's possible they could get to the final.
Yeah. Well, that's what he said before. He was, well, I'm excited too. I'm a huge Knicks fan, but he was talking about that I keep saying I think the Eastern Conference Finals is the top of the road, end of the road for us, that the Celtics are too much. But he was making the point that you're making, which is, hey, Porzingis isn't there healthy. He was causing a lot of issues for the Knicks in the games during the season. It changes it. But I thought, you know, bringing it back to the over-unders with the totals, like you were mentioning, last night when they released the total for the Knicks game, that it was high. It was much higher than what the Sixers series was. It was at 217. But really what Vegas is saying right now with the new total for the next game in the 220s, it wasn't high enough, right? This fast-paced play of the Pacers, very different than the Sixers. But the Knicks last night seemed to be able to play at that quicker
The Knicks
pace.
were very fortunate. They were very fortunate to get the win. I had the Pacers plus the 6 in the game. I had given that on Saturday. I felt that the line, when I saw it immediately, I thought that line was too high. I had took the Pacers, and I'm glad they didn't foul at the very end of the game.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of controversial calls there now in the New York papers here. They're talking about where, you know, Knicks were very fortunate to get a break or two.
We deserve it. We need a break every once in a while.
The Knicks don't want to play this type of a game, though. It's not conducive for their style. I mean, they don't have a bench. Their bench scored, 2 or 3 points. If they continue at this pace and play at this level, they could fall into a problem. You don't want to play. I think if the Knicks, to advance to play Boston, they got to slow it down. This total here is a 220 for the next game, but I'd be surprised if you see a high-scoring gunslinging affair like you did in the first game.
Yeah, so you're expecting the Knicks to try to slow this.
They got to slow it down. They were very fortunate they escaped. They had everything fall their way, but they played right into the pace. Pacers want to go up and down the court. Knicks want to slow it down. If they don't slow it down, they're playing into the hands of the Pacers, and that could be a problem. So they did escape. They were at home. The Garden was rocking, and that was part of the part of it. They got all the breaks that possible, but they can't expect to continue to get those breaks. And defense is what Thibodeau's known for, but there was no defense yesterday.
No defense at all, except at the end of the game. OG, keeps showing that this was an amazing trade because he made a couple key steals there at the end. Got that call for DiVincenzo and that kickball call also.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because everyone, when the Knicks had made that trade for OG months ago, people weren't sure, hey, is this going to help us? What's going to happen? And everyone, I said, hey, only time will tell. And we've found out very quickly how important, even with all the injuries and stuff like that, without OG, I'm not sure the Knicks would have beaten the Sixers. And the way they played down the stretch, they played really well. And this is one of the biggest acquisitions. And, it makes us, forget a little bit about Julius Randle, because who knows how good the Knicks would have been if they had Julius Randle.
Yeah, fitting all the pieces in together, you never know, right? Like you said, that's why you got to play the game. Sometimes you bring talent into the organization, doesn't necessarily work out. This appears to be working out, this iteration of the Knicks. It's exciting. It must be exciting to be up there in New York. The Knicks haven't been this exciting, I think, since I was, just a young little lad out
Hey,
there. in
we
New
got the
Jersey.
Knicks, we got the New York Rangers.
yeah.
I picked the Rangers back in October to win the Stanley Cup. I said the best chance is back in October. I said the best chance of New York getting a parade. I still stick to it, even though we're talking Knicks. I said the best chances of New York getting a parade will be the New York Rangers. And they were plus 1,600 back then, which is mind-boggling to me. Before the series started against Carolina on Sunday, I had the Rangers. Carolina is favored to win the Stanley Cup. Then the New York Rangers are the sixth choice. So, not only that, we got the New York Rangers, we even got the Yankees who still have a shot, and we got the Mets who are playing better. But the best chances, I think, like it says, I would say Rangers, Knicks, and then Yankees. But it's definitely exciting, and, I'm looking forward to the next couple of weeks of what's going to bring a lot of action happening in New York.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Rangers. They're looking phenomenal. I love hockey. And, being in South Florida, obviously we're pulling here for the Panthers, but it very well could be a New York-Boston conference final in both NBA and NHL, where you could have the Bruins and the Rangers and the Celtics and the Knicks, which would be
just crazy
mayhem.
Yeah, how about the Boston Bruins? Boston Bruins, they get by in Game 7. We thought, them and Toronto, they both have a terrible history of Game 7s, but they got by Toronto, and they go down there and they win the first game against Florida Panthers, which is not easy. Florida's rested. You thought the Bruins might be tired. Not the case. And you take a look at the Boston Celtics, getting back to them. Remember last year when they played the Miami Heat, they got knocked out. So anything just because the Celtics are the regular season, the record, I don't put that much value into it, because once the postseason starts, it's a whole new ball game. A big deal. You have the best record, but it's how you're playing now. And the Celtics really haven't been tested, and I don't expect them to be tested much against Cleveland. Maybe the Cavs will cover 1 or 2 games, maybe win 1 game, but then I think the big test will be when they play the Knicks, if the Knicks get by the Pacers, which I'm expecting to happen.
And that's why, when Dan was saying the conference finals for his Knicks is kind of like his top where he felt it, I said, believe, because the Knicks have been tested by Philly. They are going to be tested by the Pacers. They're going to be a fine-tuned, oiled machine as long as they can slow down the pace and be a little bit more rested. It's going to be a slap in the face to Boston because they face basically nobody. And it's going to be a big wake-up call.
Yeah, that's going to benefit, what I'm saying, of them playing this weak opposition. The Knicks beat the Sixers. They beat them in 6 games. You got to remember the Sixers prior to Embiid getting hurt, and we know Embiid wasn't 100%, but he was 90%. And the Knicks took care of the Sixers. At one point, the Sixers were going to be the number 2 seed before they had all the injuries, and Embiid missed all that time. So even with Embiid playing and all that stuff, I think that the Sixers were just as good, could be just as good as good as the Celtics were. Celtics a little bit better on a defensive end, but I think I'd love to see that series because anything could happen, as you said.
Yeah, well, we're hoping we get there. Joe, it's been great to have you. Amazing conversation and knowledge that this guy has about betting and about sports. I'm going to beg him to come back when we're down in Miami next week shooting again. We're going to see how right he was. I imagine he's going to be right. Joe, for the listeners out there that want to get picks from you, that want to listen to you on the radio, what's your website? What's your handle? How do they find you?
Yeah, the best way to find me is actually on Instagram. Follow me on Joe Wiz Sports. People asking me for free picks all the time. Hey, go out and follow me on Instagram, Joe Wiz Sports. My website's joewizsports.com. But on Instagram or Twitter, and as we mentioned, it's a whole new world out there. It's all social media. That's what it's all about. And, I got over 27,000 followers on Instagram, and we do put out free picks. As a matter of fact, if they go there today, they'll get a free pick out there. So we try and get some free complimentary picks out there. I want a free winnable shirt soon. I got to get one of those instead of this plain black shirt.
We're going to get you a shirt, we're going to get you a hat, and we're going to get you a winnable account, Joe. That's coming very soon.
I want a double. I can squeeze it. I can squeeze into an extra large, but make it a double X just in case.
I'll give you both. And you can give it to your IT guy if needed.
You got
Joe, thanks a lot. This has been great. We'll talk to you next week. Good luck with all your picks this week, all your bets, and go Nets.
There you go. Thanks very much, guys.
Thanks, Joe. Bye.